you told me something funny, and it made me go. It made me do that. And
oh yeah, and I reacted by going. Yeah, I remember that moment.
Yeah, that was pretty. That was
like an hour ago.
Yeah, that was pretty sweet. I just figured we'd go over that again because you know, that was a moment for me, Eric. No, could we clarify once and for all how you say Chuck's surname? Because people have said Chuck Schuldiner. People have said Chuck. I always thought Chuck Schuldiner. Chuck Schuldiner. But you see where I'm going with this, Eric. But
yeah.
But
school dinner.
Yeah.
Chuck's school dinner.
Share the story, Eric. Make it funny. Make it funny, else you fail.
It's Schuldiner.
Like wiener.
With the emphasis on diener.
Like
big wiener. Like he's got a big wiener.
You'd know about that, Eric.
Well, we were roommates.
Yeah, man. Well, whatever you know, people get lonely, man. I mean, shit happens.
What can I say? I knew Chuck well.
So we can.
Seriously, it's Schuldiner. It's I used to when I was younger. When I first met him, I always referred to him as Chuck Schuldiner, and so my brother always got in the habit of saying Schuldiner. And he still says that, my brother Paul, who also worked for Death.
And it became, at times, when you were messing around, you would say school dinner.
Yeah.
And I thought,
because,
reading that, I thought that was funny, but reliving it, I don't find it so funny, I'm afraid.
No, it's not funny now that you've heard it 10 times.
Yeah.
At the time, it was funny.
Maybe,
but yeah, it's, I think in German it means someone who works at a school, like the janitor. I'm not kidding. Someone called Chuck janitor for a while. I mean, it originally comes from the German. They just dropped the I in diener. Schul in school, and a Schuldiner is a guy that works at the school. And my wife from Austria said that it means a janitor or a custodian or something like that.
Question number two.
It means one who is very well endowed.
Holy Schuldiner. Eric, question number 2. Would you like to take this opportunity to clear up any potential misconceptions about Chuck? Any views that you see people might have? Anything you would like to quell, quench, kill, dismember?
Okay, Chuck did not have magical powers or the powers to change the weather. That kind of thing, you mean?
I kind of was pointing at there's been the comment or two that was saying like Chuck was a bit like Dave Mustaine.
Ah, that was the one that I answered today. I had to say something about that, so I answered it. Remember when that's the one I wrote out. No, the public perception is that Chuck Schuldiner was a very, very difficult fellow, a prima donna who would scream and shout and fire his band members. And let me set the record straight. There was nobody who suffered the wrath of Chuck Schuldiner probably more than I at various times. So that coming from me should be the gospel. The fact is that yes, indeed, now and then he would just go off and rage. There's no doubt about that. And anyone who worked with Death has seen him do that. But those were rarities of his character. For the most part, he was, hey, killer. And he was just very, very mellow. We used to eat a lot of chicken wings, and he was very, very generous. He would buy you gifts and pay you real well. And so that belief that he was some kind of maniac, not that Dave Mustaine is really a maniac, Dave. That's wrong on several fronts. First of all, he was never fired from a band and then spent the rest of his career resentful of that. Right, Dave?
No, he didn't.
Chuck Schuldiner was never addicted to any drugs. Right, Dave? He never had any kind of chemical dependencies or abuse. Right, Dave? Chuck Schuldiner never went to God as a reverse addiction. You know how people who are addicted to crack, then all of a sudden they become like born again hallelujahs, or whatever.
For sure.
So that's not the same. He wasn't a maniacal dictator. either of his bands.
So it sounds to me like
it's nothing like Dave Mustaine.
So it just kind of sounds to me like it's the misfortune of being in the limelight, because we can all rage, but the difference is how important we are as individuals to other people. It's like, you know, if I get pissed off, who's gonna fucking know? But if someone like Chuck does it, it's gonna be probably someone's gonna write about it.
Did Chuck make some mistakes? Yes. Was Chuck a human being? Yes. Did he fire people at will because he was tempestuous and sometimes wasn't thinking? His emotions would take over and he would just scream and shout? Yes. But was he a bad guy? No. Was he a tyrannical prima donna who was barking out orders to his underlings? No. And he was very easygoing for the most part. 99% of the time. He was a wonderful, wonderful guy. And you know what? If you were to ask Beth, his sister, exactly the same question, she'll tell you he was an asshole. Sometimes. And I would say the same kind of things. But that was only 1% or less of the time. And yeah, the perceptions are what you read. You read in the metal press that he fired his band or refused to go to Europe or whatever, and then you just start, the rumors fly, and that's what made him obsessive about rumors and being like an anti-rumor guy. He wanted you to like the music instead of the rumors, and that's why, because there were a lot of rumors about Chuck right from the beginning.
This does take me to my next question. It's very much on the point that you were just talking about, and it's to do with, I often hear you hear different views on Chuck. Some people like yourself, like to make the point he was a man, he was a human. But you do get the fans who believe that Chuck is on an untouchable pedestal. Now, the question is, do you see any issue with how a fan wants to remember Chuck?
No, not really. I mean, I've got my own opinions, and I sometimes share them, but I have to respect the fans' perspective. And unless they start shooting people from a post office and saying it was Chuck that told them to do it, I just have to pat people on the back and say, you know, whatever way Chuck touched you, if it was a positive thing, that's great for me. And I've seen those angelic paintings of Chuck as a perfect chiseled dude with angel's wings. I saw that other very clever one where he's stuck into a Michelangelo painting, you know, touching Moses' hand. I know that privately I laugh hysterical at these things, and so does Chris, Chuck's nephew, and certainly so does Beth. But when we're laughing hysterical, we're not laughing, we believe in that. We're just laughing because we know that if Chuck was alive and he saw this, he would be laughing hysterically.
He would laugh too, yeah.
He would have definitely laughed. He would have said, "What the hell is that? That's hilarious." That's
well, the thing,
exactly what he would have said. He would have not wanted to have been put on a pedestal like that. He just thought of himself as just a Kiss fan, a fan of Merciful Fate who had the fortune of having a record deal so that he could make his own music.
Well, there is that kind of thing of like, as long as that individual's love doesn't take form in a negative way, there's no real harm. There's no real harm. I mean, if they want to think Chuck...
And I respect it, and I'm like, whoa, that's pretty heavy what you've just laid on me, that Chuck lives within you and that kind of stuff. And I just have to keep thinking positive thoughts and hope that the majority of the people who've been touched by Chuck's music and lyrics react in a non-violent way.
Yeah, and
I've never had anyone call me and say, "We've got a real problem. There's a movement afoot in the state of Louisiana to ban the Scream Bloody Gore album because it's satanic, and it's leading people to a life of satanic ritual murder." Well, I've never had that happen.
It's about as ridiculous as if a Cynic fan had pulled the same thing. Like, you know, how would you listen to Cynic and then do something?
Yeah, like if a parent was to say, my son was listening to Cynic and now he's meditating daily and he's in a meditative state where he's flying astrally on another dimension and we can't get him back. We're suing you, Mr. Greif. No. I would call Paul. We'd have a good laugh, and then we'd meditate about it.
Okay, so briefly, the next question, Eric.
Does Eric fart? Yes.
That wasn't the question, I'm afraid. Unless I can't read.
Oh, but anyway, late at night, and I'm a human.
Yeah. Could you briefly talk about that grey period when you and Chuck sued each other?
When I went prematurely grey? No, you walked into that one, James Copper.
Jesus Christ. No, just that period where you and Chuck sued. I'm particularly interested in this because you have ended up as the guy leading the way, and there's
yeah, but you want to hear something even more ironic? Is that Chuck's lawyer during that period of our last lawsuit now worked under me in one of our recent litigious battles with a record company.
It's
taking direction from me as the lead counsel. And when he was first told by Beth, you know who's running things now? It's Eric Greif.
That, I mean,
you know, it was what?
If I could ask you what, so you know, we all know Chuck, Eric fell out a lot, but the thing is, to me, it's like it must have been a proper falling out because suing is like, isn't that borderline hate? Because like you dislike the person.
No, we hated each other. There's no doubt about it. But as Beth has reconciled and reckoned and recorded, you gotta love someone really a lot to truly hate them. And we look, we were like brothers in a way. I don't think that's too dramatic.
So you two were like,
we're kind of similar in nature, right? We like to rage when it's called for, and sometimes when it's not called for. And the fact that we were similar in that way made us kind of unstoppable as a force of business. I think Borovoy Kiergan is the one that wrote that we were a terrible twosome.
So
I don't know, some that like a diabolical force, or
so you two
whatever.
were obviously you were obviously deeply hurt then for that to take place.
Well, the first time Chuck fired me, he fired me because he was angry that I had gone to Mexico City to help facilitate a Mexican tour of Sepultura, who were at the time managed by Borovoy.
Right.
It was jealousy, a professional jealousy.
He
got really pissed, and he fired me over the phone. He just screamed and shouted, "You traitor! How could you possibly go down there and hang out with them?" And at that time, he was feeling professionally threatened, and quite a lot of jealousy in relationship to the superstar rise of who were formerly, up until that time, fans of Death. They had suddenly rose out of nowhere. They rose from the
thing
ashes,
is, though, when
big sellers, and he was pissed off, so he fired me over the phone.
When we do talk about this period, it's important for us to mention to the listeners that Chuck was young. You were younger.
Oh hell, we were kids, really. Chuck at that point in time was, when he fired me, was 22 and a half.
That's younger than me, you know.
Yeah, and you're only 12. Yeah, I put it in that context. I don't hold any malice, obviously. We worked it out since that point, right? He phoned me back a few months later, and as I said, he called my lawyer. But I sued him because that's what you have to do when you're out a lot of money. And regardless of friendship, I had to sue Chuck because this was business, and he breached a contract. And everybody knows that. And I did what I had to do. But what did Chuck do? He was bigger than all of that. He felt it was the time. He picked up the phone and phoned my lawyer and said, not only do I want to pay Eric, I want to phone him. So my lawyer was like baffled, called me up and said, you're never going to guess what? Chuck Schuldiner just phoned me, and he wants to pay you what he owes you and phone you.
It is a crazy story because now, I mean, what year were we talking there?